So I guess I just want to start off by asking, what is fast fashion?
I define fast fashion as mass produced like clothing or just fabric items, usually worn, and these usually sold online and they're mass produced and usually people in other countries, typically children to young adults, are labored and paid minimum to barely any wage to make these said mass produced products, and then they're sold online and are very affordable and cheap for like average families or low income families.
Fast fashion is when trends cycle out so quickly that people just buy these really cheap and bad quality clothing online and even like at the mall. And since the trends cycle out so quickly, people buy more and more and more and just get rid of the clothes that are already out of trend like a month later. Some fast fashion websites are like Shein, AliExpress, and they're really convenient for people because the clothes are so cheap and you can find literally anything. And so you can just go online, buy whatever you want, and it ships pretty quickly, and it's only like $5. I know one site, Shein, it uses these sweatshops and like even child labor overseas where they're faced with terrible conditions to create clothing, and that's why the clothes on Shein are so cheap and can just ship from overseas pretty quickly because they just don't really pay their workers anything or have good conditions for them to be working in.
It's very unfair and unjust of how that system works with the people who have to make them and the people who are over those who make everything. And it's kind of just an unfair process, but depending on the way you look at it, it can be good and bad. It's good for those who want to consume the product, like want to buy the clothing, but it's bad for those who have to produce it and have to deal with the unfair system of it all.
I think so many textile industries have been relocated overseas because just governments and politicians and just all of the big businesses that they kind of work together with really want cheap labor, and they can find that overseas more than they can find it in their own country, and so they ship all of these textile industries overseas into different countries where they can use unethical labor force and like sweatshops and everything like with Shein. The US does have a long way to go with labor reforms, but at least here we have like a minimum wage that is set and child labor laws. So clothes produced in the US are just inherently more expensive than clothes in countries where they don't have any protections for their workers.
And so, what does fast fashion have to do with upstate South Carolina and specifically Greenville, South Carolina?
Greenville is this kind of like up and coming and growing city with more and more people moving to it every year, which causes more big businesses to come here. But it was really built originally on textiles, and it was once the textile capital of the world.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know much about it. I know that there was a lot of textile mills. I know that there's a lot that are abandoned. I know that there's probably still some production somewhere, but as far as how much and where, I don't know. But I do know that, especially in South Carolina, it used to be a big part of the profit made and like the economy.
We've been taught a little bit about local textiles in school, but beyond that, I think the only thing really keeping the history alive is the stories from former workers.
I guess my first question is just, could you just kind of generally talk about your job at Milliken and kind of like
Okay.
your job?
Well, I worked in the textile industry for 30 years at one plant and 16 years at another plant. My 30 years at the one plant, Franklin Dyed Yarns, I loved it. The people were just as wonderful and beautiful to me as they could be, and I did not ever want the plant to close, but one day it closed. And so when they had the day where the people would come over to interview all the leftover employees, I was one of the leftover employees, and I was interviewed by a representative from Milliken. And so in 1999, when we finally closed the Franklin plant, I went to Milliken. It was very enjoyable. The people at the Milliken plant was just as nice as the people at Franklin Dyed Yarns. I've never met any better people than the Milliken textile people. Matter of fact, the textile people are like a big family. But Greenville, South Carolina, was a wonderful place for textiles. They had baseball teams, they had football teams. The different plants would play each other. They had celebration days, and everybody would bring their whole family, and it was just a family, and it was part of history, but it should not be a forgotten part of history.
My name is Matt Thompson. I graduated from the University of South Carolina in 1975, and my first job out of school was with Deering Milliken, a wonderful company. After that, I went to work for my father-in-law's company, which was Fiber Processing Company here in Greenville. That business went kind of down because the mills started closing, and when the mills started closing down, there went the waste. So by the by, that business went under. There was a time when I wondered what the future might be because one mill was closing after the other. I wish the textile trade well, but it's sort of a dying industry.
Why do you think so many textile plants and so much of the textile industry kind of got relocated to other countries?
That's an extremely simple answer. Cost, period.
I was very deeply sad when the Judson plant where I worked closed. November the 16th was my last day at Milliken. That was a very sad day, but I had to put on a positive front. Nobody knew that I was sad leaving because I told them that I was going to be happy and everything, but my heart was broken.
It's still a necessary industry. We still have to wear clothes, and as long as we have to wear clothes and sleep on sheets, and there will always be a textile industry. It just won't be the same. It'll be smaller. It'll be more downsized. If I started over again, I don't think I'd make a change. Boy, I'll never forget it.
I will assure you that everybody in Greenville remembers the textiles and knows what they lost when they lost textiles.